Okay, go ahead.
Hey, we're about to start an interview.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right, I'm Ed Pettit, and I am the chair of Parks and Neighborhood Character for Third Ward Complete Communities. I'm also a graduate research assistant at the Bullard Center for Environmental and Climate Justice at Texas Southern University. And we're here today at Third Ward on Tap, which is the biggest event of the year in Third Ward. And we are on the Columbia Tap Hike and Bike Trail. So originally, the Columbia Tap was a rail line that went through Third Ward into downtown. In 2009, it was built into a hike and bike trail. I moved to Third Ward in 2011, and the Columbia Tap was my first introduction to the neighborhood. I started doing weekly rides with Dr. Vion McReynolds and his Tour de Hood group that would take rides every Wednesday night through Third Ward along the Columbia Tap Trail. And it really got me to appreciate the community, the friendships that are here, just the social atmosphere of the neighborhood, all of its arts and cultural history. And it's a very important backbone to the neighborhood. The problem is that I saw that this trail was not designed for the people who lived here. It was really designed for folks coming from downtown or from the Brays Bayou Greenway to go through Third Ward, but not really to experience Third Ward, or for the residents who live here to actually utilize the trail and benefit from all of its amenities. So in 2017, I worked with a group of residents. We applied for a grant from the Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC, and we worked to put up some historical, cultural signage in the form of stenciling that we did with temporary paint. Well, the paint ended up not being so temporary, and the signage stayed up for a couple years, and people really enjoyed it because it showed them, the different historical sites that they were passing, the different nonprofits, the different placemaking sites along the trail. And our end goal was to ultimately convince the Parks Department and the different local government entities to really invest in wayfinding signage and cultural signage and interpretive educational signage along the trail. A couple of years ago, Complete Communities came on board, which is the mayor's initiative to support disinvested neighborhoods like Third Ward. And they helped us to get some wayfinding signage so that as people are riding the trails, they could see which streets they're crossing. The next step is really to get more cultural, historical placemaking signage. So today, we printed out about 50 yard signs along the trail that speak to the different placemaking issues that you see from north to south. So we start at the North Trailhead near downtown. That's also where we have Ito Bike Shop, which is one of the first businesses to actually open up and incorporate the trail. Then we talk about different issues in the neighborhood, like illegal dumping and how we're addressing that along the trail and throughout the neighborhood. We talk about different nonprofits like Workshop Houston. We talk about how to better assist the cyclists coming through the trail, like through having bike fix-it stations. We talk about some natural features, like how we can incorporate bioswales or rain gardens to help with stormwater runoff, how we can increase the tree canopy to make the trail cooler to ride along through decreasing the heat from shade and also from evapotranspiration from things like pocket prairies and the rain gardens. And we also talk about some of the different cultural and historical sites along the trail. We talk about Lockwood Elementary School. We talk about the Texas AIDS Memorial Garden, which most people in Houston don't even know exists, but it was built along the trail by local residents in the 90s, even before the National AIDS Memorial Grove was started. And this local memorial garden was up for many years until the trail was converted. And the trail was built through the garden, but many of the amenities and the pillars and the cement stonework and the ponds and the gardens still exist. And so we want to find a way to keep that history alive, and also just to promote all of the different activities that are happening along the trail, how we can better build commercial and residential buildings to face the trail, to provide eyes on the trail. Going back to Jane Jacobs, the famous architectural urban critic, her theory that to have a safe public space, a safe street, or a safe trail, you need to have eyes on the trail, you need to have activity on the trail, you need to have people sitting on their porch facing the trail and seeing what she called the theater of the street, seeing the motions of the people. And that's that's how you keep a neighborhood safe. Unfortunately, like I was saying, the trail wasn't built for that. And you'll see lots of fencing along the trail, the backs of buildings facing the trail. It actually goes through Texas Southern University, but when Texas Southern University was expanding their campus, it was a rail line at that time. So when they built their educational buildings, their campus buildings, the exhaust and the HVAC systems are facing the trail, spewing out all of the particulate matter. And so we need to find ways to redesign these buildings so that we can reincorporate the trail back into the fabric of the neighborhood to be a true hike and bike amenity. We also are looking at some of the residential features. Some of the new townhomes have built their porches and balconies so that they face the trail, and we want to encourage that. And so we want to make sure that we have people come out today at this Third Ward on Tap event to see some of the good aspects of design and how it makes the trail safer and more accessible. Some residents have taken it upon themselves to build little bridges to connect their residential property to the trail, because when they built the trail, they put in these drainage dishes. And for example, as it goes by CUNY Homes, which is the first and oldest public housing complex in Houston, you'll see that they built a big fence separating CUNY Homes from the trail. Now, that does a couple things. Number one, it kind of creates this expectation of crime that, I shouldn't pass the fence because there's something dangerous on the other side. It also creates a blind corridor that people aren't using and people aren't watching, and that, creates the opportunity for crime to take place. Some of the residents at CUNY Homes, though, they've taken their own initiative to kind of take out some of the fence posts so that they can access the trail, and even to build their own makeshift bridges to cross the drainage ditch in the rainy season so that they can get to the other side of the trail to access the bus stop, the washateria, the laundromat, the corner stores. And we call that kind of citizen action tactical urbanism. So today during Third Ward on Tap, we're highlighting some of the tactical urbanism projects, the resident-made bridges, the signage that the residents are putting up, the pocket prairies and the rain gardens, and all of these activities that the residents have taken it on themselves to address the failures of central planning. And so we want to make sure that today we have residents from CUNY Homes, Third Ward residents from the neighborhood, we have folks from local government, we have folks from the Parks Department and the Houston Parks Board, so that we can all come together and hear from the residents on what their needs are and how we can use those insights from the residents who really know the neighborhood best on designing the trail and making it better and reuniting the community.